So I've been watching a couple of people tell their stories just recently, and I've been wondering where the courage comes from for them to tell their story. And I asked a couple of people the question, and we're going to discuss that today because there's a lot of people out there that would like to tell their story, but don't know how they could possibly do it. So I want to talk about that today on STP. Like, share, and subscribe. Oh, it's Mark My Words, not STP. Like, share, and subscribe. Let's dive in and see what happens. Welcome to Mark My Words. Mark My Words is the story of my journey from a place where I was shattered to where I could live again. Okay, so I was told the other day that I've told my story over 300 times to different groups of people. I also tell my story with a lot of other people that do the same thing. And I was in a classroom even just today, and there was a woman telling a story of schizophrenia. She was diagnosed with schizophrenia, and then it was changed to schizoaffective disorder. And I was looking at this girl, and she's telling this amazing story of the struggle and the heartache that she's had to work through. And I was so proud of her and so impressed with her. And then we just started talking a little bit about why we tell our stories. This is just between us. And I said, well, how did you come to tell your story? It's a question that I've asked quite a few people. And she basically said that she didn't know. It came through opportunity. It came through time. I know that I tell my story because mental illness stole so much from me, so much time, a job, income, a livelihood, that I want to try and take something back. I want my pain to mean something. This amount of time that I just lived so selfishly, absorbed in my own, symptoms. It's not my fault, but, it just feels like all this wasted time. And as I said, I've asked a few of my colleagues why they tell their story. And the answer is always interesting. It's always different, but it always comes down to I don't want other people to make the same mistakes that I made. And I mean, at essence, that's why I tell my story. If I can give somebody some other pathway to go down, if I can give them an indication of what not to do, or what to do better, or to be braver, or to speak sooner, then that's why I tell my story. And that's why my colleague tells her story. She also mentioned that she wanted to stop people thinking that everybody with schizophrenia is dangerous. And it's a fair cop because, I was watching a show just the other day, and it was a cop show, and it was the guy who had a mental illness and he had schizophrenia and he was a killer. And it just seems to be this thing that every show that you watch, every bad guy has got some kind of mental illness, generally schizophrenia, but they're always broken. And the fact of the matter is that a person with mental illness is more likely to be assaulted than they are to assault anybody else, because for the most part, we don't want to hurt anybody else. We just want to hurt ourselves. It sounds like a shocking and terrible thing to say, but it's 100% true. I never wanted to hurt anybody else. I never hurt my family. I did want to hurt myself. So I loved that she was out there being proud of her story, saying openly and honestly that she lives with this schizoaffective disorder. And it's courage of a level that I don't know, because I didn't grow up with a mental illness. I didn't begin my life living with this thing called mental illness. It came upon me later on. That's why I've got complex PTSD. I was in my 30s when I first got diagnosed. So, for me, it was tough, but it was never normal. Imagine growing up with a disorder and not knowing that you actually have it, and then finding out that you're the unusual one. You're the different one. This girl said today she has this thing where she can smell stuff that's not there. There's a name for it. I can't remember what it was. Olfactory something. And she would have to turn to people and go, "Can you smell this?" And she still at times will be a little bit like, "Can anybody else smell this or hear this or see this?" So what does this mean for you? You might be sitting there going, "There is no way that I could tell my story." And I want to get on, I want to say something about this. If you had have asked me 5, 6 years ago, if I would be doing a podcast about my own mental illness, I would have said, absolutely not. No way. There's no how. It would never happen. I would have been adamant that this would never be something I could do. But time and opportunity changed that. And I started to draft my story and I started to think about my story, and not in the way that I'd told my doctors, because that story was always, I have to dredge up the worst things so that you can give me something that I need. Now my story is the story that I want to tell. It's my successes. It's the struggles that I want to share, that I'm safe to share. So where does the courage come from? I don't know. But my hope is that you will be inspired, if not by me, by somebody else, by somebody that you know, another storyteller, to find opportunity to understand your story and realize that the time that mental illness stole from you can be won back. If you can help one person, you know, I was talking to another girl the other day, and she said that she's in this group, and I don't want to say too much about the group. It's a very particular kind of group. And everybody in there understood their story, and a person that was listening going, "How do I tell my story?" And the girl that I was with was smart enough to say they told their story through just the conversation. They understood their story, they understood their struggles, and it came out just through the conversation. It wasn't like standing in front of somebody and going, "Here is my story." Understanding your story is a powerful thing to do. And whatever you need to get the courage to start doing it, do it. You know, I say to people, just start telling your story. Tell yourself your story. Write it down if you like. Write a poem. Just say something, and then learn to understand your story, and then tell your story in the way that you live. Hey, I want to thank you for checking out Mark My Words. Like, share, and subscribe. If you feel like it. Have a great week. I'll speak to you again next week. Bye for now. Thank you for listening to Mark My Words. I'd like to thank my producer, Meredith Brosnan, and also Torian, Kevin, and Lorraine. And I can't forget the band Adelaide, who allows us to use their song as our theme.